chose to go to the ground and pull up a grassroots campaign because they have been forgotten about. And they live in the 24th, Arlene. And then they tell me that they're going to endorse a candidate whose father left a legacy, who ran the Chicago public school system, a system that's been failing our kids forever and a day.
Yes, yes.
They won't endorse me, but they're going to support a candidate that has done nothing more than merely been a park district attendant, and we have the worst park districts in this entire city. They won't endorse me, but yet they'll endorse a candidate that lives in the gated community that won't even walk up 16th Street or Roosevelt Road. So when they tell you that they standing on behalf of your right, your justice, your inclusion, if they tell you that they're standing for economic inclusion that should be a black culture, they telling you a bold-faced lie. Because if they really want change on the 24th floor, they'll support a candidate that they know has a backbone, has a history of success, have walked the streets of the 24th ward, have raised children, have carried America on my back. That's who they will support. They want to continue this cycle of nowhere. They want to continue the cycle of keeping you depressed, suppressed. And he is right. The congressman is right. That we cannot make a change unless we vote. But there's one thing I disagree with him in. It don't start once they elected.
That's right.
We put our agenda before they get elected. You may not live in the 24th ward, but you know somebody that does. And you live in the city of Chicago. Putting me in city council, no matter what legislative laws or whatever comes forth for the city of Chicago, if I'm fighting for you. And when you're a council representative, you represent the city of Chicago. The success that's about to take hold in the city of Chicago will spread abroad to Inglewood, other communities that are so depressed that we are afraid to get up in the morning and walk to the bus. Our kids down on the corner. They push Renaissance 2010s. That's caused a lot of our kids to get murdered because they had to cross boundaries with this school system. It's been set up. It's a system. And it's a system that is causing you to fail every single day. They put that mess on TV that I'm buying votes. Well, wait till I put the history out about my opponent. If God be for you, what fool would be against you? I am a powerful woman of God, and I'm going to take my place rightfully in city council come April 7th. Hook, crook, or shook. They can keep trying their little dirty tricks, but I'm going to tell you, when you come up against a black woman, the worst thing you want to deal with is a mad black woman. And I'm going to get every sister across this entire city to stand with me and say we will be counted. If you're going to keep my men down, then we're going to stand up and we're going to bring them with us every step of the way. Can I hear you say, Beatrice boy? Beatrice boy! Beatrice boy! I love you and God bless you.
Even living award.
Oh, and my opponent says that he is for red light cameras, just to let you know.
All right, thank you. We will not let anybody talk about and denigrate our black sisters. We will not accept that from anybody. If anybody's going to correct our sisters or brothers, we will come to each other and we will do that in the most respectful way. We will not allow for the media to determine who our sisters are and what they are doing. Somebody else's behavior doesn't dictate who she is. She's bright, she's brilliant, and she's beautiful. So let's support them. Let me just ask you to do me one favor before I bring up the next guest. There is no person who can win victories for everybody in our communities by themselves. They must have support. So would you please just give my committee, the Citizens to Abolish Red Light Cameras, a round of applause?
Yeah!
Tirelessly for the last 3 years, worked very hard for no pay, none of us. But we want to make a difference for all of us. The city needs money. They don't need to balance the budget on the poorest people in the community.
That's right.
And that is precisely what red light cameras and speed cameras do. It impacts the least of these, while it's giving corporate subsidies to the people who don't need it. All right, bringing up the next person I am going to bring up to present to you. This is the person who I would have supported for mayor of the city of Chicago, and maybe we'll get an opportunity to do that again. Miss Amara. Please receive her.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Amara Enya. I'm going to be very brief, expecting that our two candidates will arrive shortly. We all know why we're here. As someone who decided to run for mayor, a black woman from the west side of Chicago working in the community, who they said was a little young for the job, we're here because we're impatient. I ran because I have little tolerance for nonsense. I live in East Garfield Park, and every day I wake up and I see the issues. We see the issues. We don't need to hear what the problems are. And so my charge as we're here today is to demand, not to ask, but to demand what we have not seen thus far. A specific agenda that is aligned with what we know we need. I think that the time for asking, the time for platitudes, the time for pretty speeches has passed. We're 3 weeks away from an election that will determine the direction of this city for the next few decades. This is very, very serious. And so we cannot afford to be taken by pretty speeches. We cannot afford to be taken by vague platitudes about what they think the issues are. They should know already. We have said it loud and clear enough times. Our job is to hold them accountable to what they say. So the real work starts on April 8th. But for now, we have to demand that they respond to the agenda that we have. And that's my charge. The second piece that I'll leave here, because this is about young people, this is about the next generation. For too long, too many of us have been told to wait our turn. Too many have been told that it's not time yet. Too many have been told that they have to pay their dues as our communities are regressing, because we have to understand that if we're not progressing, there's no such thing as stagnation. We're regressing. And so I'm calling to mind one of the men that we celebrate, the 45th anniversary of the assassination of Fred Hampton, just last December. He was 21 years old when he was killed. And I want that to sink in. The leader of the Illinois Black Panther Party, 21 years old. 21 years old. What are we waiting for? The other person that we revere, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He was 38, maybe 39 when he died. When he led the largest boycott in history, he was 26 years old. 26. And finally, because this is Women's History Month, and because we know the power of black women, Reverend Willie T. Barrow, who we have to honor, we must honor, as she is now with our ancestors. When she started organizing, she was 17 years old. What are we waiting for? We have a responsibility to assume the position to advance our agenda. We cannot wait. We can't afford to wait. This is the time to use our energy, our vibrancy, and our passion to advance our agenda. We cannot have success any other way. And we need to understand that. So the next time a young woman from the West Side says she's going to run for mayor, people need to stand up and say yes. Not just because it's possible, but because we have a rightful ability. We are entitled just as much as any other person in this city, not only to be alderman, to be mayor, to be president. That's power. And we need to start talking about power. Who has it and who doesn't have it? If we're not talking about power, anything else anyone says has no relevancy. So when they come here, those of you who stay for the candidates, listen very closely to what they're saying. If they're not talking about power, if they're not talking about ownership, economic ownership, if they're not talking about a clear agenda to make sure that not just we're asking for jobs, but we're owners of companies. How that's going to happen, they're not saying anything that's relevant to us. Let's be critical. This is our opportunity. But for the young people, this is just the first step. Thank you. Oh, good. And actually, I have the pleasure of bringing up another brother who has taken it upon himself to run for alderman in the 20th Ward. He has been endorsed by Southside Democracy for America. He is super bright, engineer by trade, U of I, Urbana, lives in the neighborhood, has been advocating tirelessly for the last few months, and has gotten into the runoff against an incumbent that is certainly a rubber stamp for the mayor. So I want to bring up Kevin Bailey.